Okay, so see here, see till now we have seen the record data and what are the different types of record data. Now coming to the second type of data set is that is graph based data. Okay, so we know that see a graph is very powerful data structure. Okay, and it is going to convey many more things which cannot be represented using that is normal data in a two dimensions. Okay, so graph can be a very powerful representation of the data here. Okay, and even we can perform many of the operations using the graphs here. Okay, then what is the use of that is using the graphs here for representing the data? So see here, we will be considering two cases here. So one is, see, with the help of graph, we can represent the relationships that is present in the data objects. So this graph is going to capture the relationships among the data objects. So that is the first thing. Okay. So with the help of graph, we'll be representing what is the kind of relationship that is going to exist between the different data objects. That is the first case. The second case is, see, data objects will be having intern sub objects. So such representation of the that is sub objects, they can be represented even using graphs here. So the data objects themselves even can be represented as a graphs here. See, that means that, see, some of the data objects will be having sub objects here. So the relationship among them, so we can represent with the help of the graphs here. Okay. So now coming to the first case, that is the relationship among the data objects. See how we can represent that using graphs here. Okay. So see here, I'll give one example. So this is one of the example of a graph data here. So where we have represented the graph, that is the data in the form of a graph. Okay, so there exists some kind of relationship among the data objects. So that relationship among the data objects, okay, so which is going to convey very important data that has been represented in a form of graphs here. Okay, so now then how we can represent the relationships, okay, and the data objects here. Okay, see, the nodes are going to represent the that is objects here. Okay, and the relationship among the nodes will be represented by the links. Okay, so relationship will be represented by the links and the link properties here. Okay, so that normally that will be represented using direction and then weights. Okay, so see here, there exists some kind of that is relationship among the data objects. That relationship among the data objects can be represented using graphs here. Okay, so we have used the graph here in order to represent the relationship among the data objects. Then what is the representation here? So if you observe each of these, okay, so these are the data objects here, and the relationship among the data objects has been represented by the links between the data objects. Okay, we can use the links and then link properties like direction and the weight to represent the relationship. Okay, so one of the example here is, see, we have represented the web pages. Okay, so that is on the world wide web on your www, okay, website, which the webs that is web pages which you have accessed, that has been represented in a form of graph data here. Okay, so here if you observe, see each that is text box, okay, it contains the text and links to the other text box or the other pages. So for example, see, this is one web page which you have opened. If you click on bibliography, again it will open a new web page. Okay, again if you in the second web page, if you click on general data that is mining, then again if you click that, it will open one more web page. So there is a relationship between the that is data objects here, that has been captured in a form of that is graph here. Okay, so one example is, for example, say if you open the VTU website, okay, so that is www.vtu.ac.in. So one web page will come, and again if you go to the results tab, so if you click on that, it will open one more tab. Okay, so that relationship that we can capture easily with the help of data objects here, sorry, graphs here. Okay, so this is the first use of using graphs here, that is we have represented the data objects which are having relationships among the that is data here. Okay, so that we can represent using graphs. Okay, so second one is, even the data objects can themselves be represented as graphs. Even single data objects can be represented as graphs Suppose if those objects contain the sub objects here. Say in between those sub objects, if there is a relationship that we can represent with the help of graph here. So if the data objects, if they are having the sub objects, and if there is a relationship between those sub objects, they can that can be represented as graphs here. See, one best example is if you consider the structure of chemical compound. Okay, so structure of chemical compound can be represented as a graph here. Okay, so where the nodes, they are going to correspond to the atoms, and the link between the nodes will be chemical bonds. Okay, so I'll show you one example here. So see here, this is a structure of a chemical compound, that is benzene. Okay, so it is a single object here, but it contains many of the sub objects. See, since this single object, it contains many of the sub objects which have got the relationship among themselves. So it has been represented as a graph here. Okay. So in this example, we have considered the chemical compound, that is benzene. This graph, it shows the structure of a chemical compound, that is benzene. Okay. Then what are these? That is sub objects. See, sub objects are nothing but atoms here. Okay, and the link between these atoms. Okay, so these links, they are going to form the, that is structure of a benzene here. Okay, so now then what is the advantage of using this graphs for representing the structure of the chemical compounds? Okay, see one advantage is, see the substructure that is going to occur frequently, okay, in a set of compounds. We can easily represent that using the graphs here. Okay, and if there is any presence of the substructures, okay, that is just because of the presence of any other that is substructures that we can find. For example, in case of chemical compounds like benzene, okay, so point of heat formation, so it is one of these substructure that is going to matter a lot. Okay, so because it is going to indicate a presence of one more substructure, so that we can easily find with the help of a graph here. Okay, so that is the advantage of using the graphs here. Just remember that, say, graphs can be used here in order to represent the objects. Okay, that is a complete list of objects can be represented using graphs. Okay, so where, see, each of the node is going to represent the objects, and the link between the nodes, that is going to represent the relationships among the objects. That is the first thing, or the first case. See, one example that we have seen is, that is web pages that is accessed while browsing. Okay, and second case is about the data objects, single data objects which are having sub objects. So if the single data objects, if they have got these sub objects, then that can also be represented in a form of graph. See, one of the example is, that is structure of chemical compound here. So this has been represented in a form of graph here. Okay, so here we have got the atoms. Okay, and then links between the atoms, that has been represented here. Okay, so the main advantage of representing this is, see, suppose if you want to find the substructures that are going to occur frequently. Okay, so there must be some relationship between the substructures here. Because of the presence of one substructure, see, another substructure is going to occur. For example, see, I told that melting point or heating point of a formation, that is one of the substructure that is very important in the chemical compounds like benzene. In order to find that, see, we can represent the data objects, okay, in the form of a graph. Okay, so this is about the second type of that is data set. Okay, so first one that we have studied is record data. Okay, and second one is, that is graph based data. Okay, so next third one, that is order data. So that we shall study in the next class. Okay, so just wait.